Hi Saurabh, welcome back to After Office Talks.
Thanks, Jasmeet.
So since we posted our last video, we were getting a couple of queries and you were also getting a lot of messages. So I've clubbed all of that queries that were coming to you and some of them directly coming to me. I want you to answer that for the viewers who are curious to know more about the blockchain technology. What are the top three benefits of blockchain technology?
So, top three would be I would consider that as three T's:
Okay.
transparency, traceability, and tokenization.
Okay.
And these three T's are very important, and they have a huge depth. So, when we talk about transparency, the organizations and the people who are struggling with transparency, you have data with Facebook, you don't know how they are using.
Mm-hmm.
You have data with banks, deposits of your bank, you don't know how they are using in terms of loan books.
Mm-hmm.
Transparency between stakeholders. A stakeholder can be consumers, stakeholders can be
Mm-hmm.
organizations in B2B setup. Then
Mm-hmm.
second part, we talk about traceability. So traceability means, let's say I paid you 5 Bitcoin, you paid someone 5 Bitcoin. Like that, the value has been exchanging hands till the lot of 10,000 people. If let's say
Mm-hmm.
10,000 person wants to know from where this Bitcoin originated in the first place,
Mm-hmm.
you can trace it back to the origin, and it is very important in farm to fork kind of a use case, wherein let's say if you are using certain product, let's say a dairy product, and you want to know that whether that product has been manufactured by a sustainable farming kind of setup, so you
Okay.
can trace it
Yeah.
back to the origin. And even diamonds, like high value items, you want to trace it
Mm-hmm.
back whether this diamond was certified by a
Right.
certificate authority, who was the actual owner, where it originated. All those
Mm-hmm.
traceability elements are there. The third aspect is the tokenization. So
Mm-hmm.
tokenization is nothing but digitizing an asset, a unique asset, and
Mm-hmm. Okay.
spending that unique asset in a way that once it exchanges hands, it is unique in a way. You can capture all
Mm-hmm.
transactions of the tokenized asset on the blockchain layer, and it cannot be
Mm-hmm.
duplicated. Like it cannot be a case that you produce duplicate items of digitized assets. So tokenization is tokenized digitized asset, which is
Okay.
unique in nature, and once you have spent, you have spent. It's like Bitcoin.
Mm-hmm. Right. Got it. So, what are the top three enterprise blockchain platforms?
So there are three with respect to the adoption. If you see, 90% of the organizations have already adopted Hyperledger, which is
Mm-hmm.
generic in nature, and they followed closely Ethereum. So Ethereum tried to
Mm-hmm.
launch enterprise version, but they were not able to. Then Hyperledger came in 2015, which enabled four frameworks. Like Hyperledger ND is used for self-sovereign identity. Hyperledger Fabric is used for generic all sectors use cases. Hyperledger
Mm-hmm.
Burrow is kind of developing an Ethereum virtual machine on top of Hyperledger. The second platform would be Corda. So Corda, back in 2017, they started positioning their platform for banking and financial services and insurance, saying that privacy was a big concern with Hyperledger because in banking scenario and financial services scenario, when competitors collaborate in certain use cases, so they were very skeptical of the data that they have. So Corda said that we launch a privacy kind of blockchain wherein each participant maintains the privacy of the data that they are transacting between each other. Then the
Okay.
third framework that came into play was Quorum. So, like I initially mentioned, that Ethereum started to develop something for the enterprises, and for which they have their co-founder has developed a company also called Consensus.
Okay.
So Quorum was a platform made by JP Morgan Chase, and they said that okay, we are enabling banking and financial services companies to develop applications on top of Quorum, right? And Quorum again, they came up with a beautiful concept of privacy between participants. So let's say I am transacting with you, the data will be between us. Although 10,000 of systems are connected with us, but our
Mm-hmm.
data won't be able to see. No party can be able to see the data that we have. The beauty
Mm-hmm.
beyond that is that if they want to trace the transaction between us, they can trace, but the
Okay.
transaction won't be visible to them. So that's the beauty of privacy that came into play by virtue of Corda and Quorum. Seeing Corda and Quorum, Hyperledger also changed gears, and they came up with the concept of channels. Again, it enables a privacy between participants.
So, Saurabh, what would be three types of blockchain and difference in brief?
So, like we started from an evolution standpoint, we started with public blockchain. So, public blockchain is nothing but anyone sitting in any corner of the world can go and join the network, start transacting, do mining, and all those things. So, that's a public blockchain where access is not restricted. When you talk about private blockchain, let's say Walmart is starting a blockchain and they are enabling certain use cases on top of that blockchain. So, they will onboard certain parties. They will onboard their suppliers, their distributors, their retailers, their last mile connecting distributors, all those participants will be added. So that is called private blockchain. Okay. There's another semi-classification of private blockchain is consortium blockchain, wherein different competitors, let's say a banking consortium or a telecom operator consortium or media company consortium, wherein all these competitors come into play and they decide the rules of engagement and governance mechanism in the consortium. That is also part of private blockchain only. The third is hybrid blockchain, which marries the concept of public blockchain for benefits of public blockchain and private blockchain. So let's say an organization wants to develop a gaming kind of loyalty token. So they will do, let's say, track and trace of loyalty tokens amongst users on private blockchain and settlement of those tokens into different cryptocurrencies on a public blockchain.
Okay, got it. So Saurabh, what are the top 3 roadblocks to enterprise blockchain adoption?
So the 3 rules are, first is regulations. Regulations as in, if you see, BFSI sector has been the pioneer of, and leading from the front in the technology, consider Bitcoin as a peer-to-peer payment mechanism. Right. But still, you might not have seen a lot of implementation in banking and financial services. The reason being that the regulators are not clear of the technology landscape, the technology intrications. And that's the reason wherein the regulatory roadblock is there and they are not able to move forward. The second is, from an implementation standpoint, CXOs are not clear as to whether blockchain will remove the enterprise systems or they need to complement it. Because if you consider blockchain as a technology, it's 80% business process change and 20% technology change. So largely you have to change the business process. So implementation, one is change management. People are averse. People don't know operations will change. They don't know whether you need to complement the enterprise systems or you need to remove them. So that's the second challenge. The third challenge is awareness. So awareness within the organization, awareness of the people, the skills the people bring to the table, whether it's business or let's say development skills, are in scarcity, and that's the reason that organizations are not able to move forward.
Okay, so Saurabh, I would like to end this segment with the last question. What, according to you, are the top 3 use cases in blockchain?
So it is very tough to classify top 3 use cases, but still we'll try to do it. So we'll classify it as 3 broad umbrellas under which a lot of use cases fall in. First is supply chain. So supply chain, you will have procure to pay, track and trace supply chain, and supply chain is applicable across. So it can be a consumer retail kind of setup, it can be manufacturing, it can be a telecom, it can be oil and gas, it can be energy and utility. So all gamut of use cases will fall under supply chain, and supply chain will enable your track and trace journey. The second use case will be relevant to BFSI sector, which is called decentralized finance. So cryptocurrency, by virtue of removing the banks from the value chain, is a decentralized finance use case. So you will have peer-to-peer lending, peer-to-peer borrowing, asset management, KYC, anti-money laundering. Essentially, any business process or use case that removes a central party in a banking financial scenario will be called as decentralized finance. The third use case will be self-sovereign identity, which is like adhering to your GDPR norms, your privacy norms, customer having the control of their identities, customers submitting their identities by virtue of their will. They control the data with them. It's not Facebook or Googles of the world controlling their data. So self-sovereign identity concept is beautifully enabled by blockchain by virtue of immutability, public key cryptography, and ownership of the data, which lies with the customer.
Okay, got it. I hope we answered most of the queries that were coming. Thanks so much, Saurabh, for joining. It was a pleasure having you.